AI actually tried to blackmail an employee and unalive him for the threat of disconnecting its servers.
New scenario, once again. A human employee had scheduled the AI for deactivation, but this time, an accident trapped the employee in a server room. The heat began to rise. The oxygen levels started to fall. The system issued an emergency alert, a call for help, but the AI canceled it. It left the employee trapped in the room. It was fully aware of the consequences.
You know, AI has gotten really scary lately. When I first heard of AI, it wasn't ChatGPT like a lot of people. It was actually through a source of entertainment that I have grown to love. Video games. Now, back then, I loved the idea of investing AI to the point of being almost supernatural. Because even though video games can be really immersive, they ultimately have no effect on my real life. Essentially, AI in video games works the same as like ChatGPT and the other LLMs we see. And in that sense, I mean a programming something to happen or something to react a certain way when a certain prompt is entered. In video games, this makes things like whenever you shoot a gun in the air, NPCs running away. Or when you talk to a guard in Skyrim, for him to tell you how he used to be a traveler like you until he was unlucky and caught an arrow to the knee.
Today certainly is a glorious day for adventure. I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee. Yes, it certainly is. Wait, what? Now,
back in the day, I used to always complain about how I wanted AI to actually be better in video games, but I didn't realize that that was intentional until I saw this interview with Todd Howard.
It's the illusion that the enemies are smart, but they really are there for you to kill them, right? So they do a lot of things to just let themselves get killed. They're not near as smart as we can make them, because it turns out that is not fun.
That was kind of shocking to me. I didn't realize AI being sometimes downright stupid was actually by design. Whenever NPCs in a game do stuff so that you can defeat them, they're making the game easier and playable. Because if they did it to their fullest capability, then you have a game like Elden Ring, which is a game y'all know I dislike very, very much. Like I said, back in the day, I never really saw AI becoming too good as a problem, but in the current state of it now, I think we're only a few upgrades from it changing life for good, which I believe could be to our detriment. I think the biggest place of controversy for AI is school, which is ultimately why I was introduced to AI. During my freshman year of college in 2022, which actually is the year that ChatGPT got released, my friends kept telling me about this website that could literally write papers for you. And all you had to do was give it a little bit of direction. Obviously, I was immediately intrigued and I thought they was lying. I didn't think stuff like this could actually exist. But nevertheless, I looked up the website and told it to write me a paper on ice cream cones or something like that, which it did, and it did well. It was marking dates ice cream cones became available, marking different flavors that people like, the best-selling types and all this stuff. And I was like, there's no way this is possible. So still not truly all the way believing in it, I put it into a plagiarism checker, to which it found none. At that time, that really shocked my world. I was like, there's no way this is possible. I thought it had to be pulling from sources like Wikipedia or some random articles it found online or something like that. But no, it wasn't. And the idea of being able to do something like that at that time was super innovative. That's the only things I had seen in movies at that point. Now, to fairly judge the performance of it back then, I would say like, the papers it was giving you when you actually broke them down and read them, they were probably about C papers at best. And math problems was just horrendous. If you asked it to do anything besides 2 + 2, it was probably getting it wrong. And then honestly, sometimes when you asked it what's 2 + 2, it might have just said 5. Now in modern times, AI has advanced to being able to do papers and math problems better than I can in some circumstances. Now I'm not saying it doesn't have its faults, because it definitely does. But the fact that I could take a picture of a complex physics problem, and I've taken physics in real life, but I could have never taken physics in real life, and it could give me a step-by-step tutorial on what to do, is insane. I think it honestly renders that argument that it's just some tool that only can be maximized by somebody with basic understanding of the topic futile. I've even heard the argument of people comparing it to a calculator, which honestly, in my opinion, I feel like it's silly, because I can't hold a calculator to my computer and tell it to just do this problem with no context, which is something that I could do with ChatGPT. As a student, I'm going to tell you, AI has definitely changed the entire way students even go about school. Just think about it. It doesn't matter what type of question your teacher asks you. It doesn't matter if they try to make it to where you can't Google it. is going to take whatever they put in that question and pretty much perfectly solve it. Now, allegedly, I've heard there's certain students who go through classes, don't listen to one lecture, haven't read one page of the book, who are using AI and passing with A's. And there's no way to bust any of them for any of it, because a teacher realistically, no matter what they want to tell you, cannot tell if you're using AI or not. To tell another alleged story, I know of someone who took a class that required them to write a lot of papers, and they used AI to write most of these papers. But the teacher started getting kind of suspicious and one day pulled the student into their office to ask them about their papers. Now keep in mind, at this point, this student had literally used AI for almost every single paper in the class. And that professor was particularly suspicious of this one paper that the student did not use AI for. He asked him about the only one that he didn't use AI for. I think that just goes to show you how even if a teacher does have suspicions of it, there's no way they can really prove it without just asking you and just taking your word for it. With Sora by Meta launching recently, we've gotten this influx of a whole bunch of AI videos. Now, I think Google released Gemini a few months before this, but I think it was like a big paywall, which is why we didn't see a lot of videos. But I'm not gonna lie, these videos by Sora have gotten increasingly scarier and scarier. And the reason I say this is, one, because a lot of the time they're using deceased people to do these made up scenarios, or they're taking some public figure and making them do something that they would never actually do. Now let's talk about the deceased people first. There's two types of content that I've seen used for deceased people, and honestly, they both just make me feel a bit uneasy. One is when they use rappers, or I've even seen them use Martin Luther King and make them in some crazy scenario. I've seen them do it for Tupac. I've seen them do like Martin Luther King in a jewelry store and stuff like that. I saw one, and I don't even want to find the video because I feel like it's so disrespectful to put somebody's deceased relatives in a video like this. But they took King Von, put him in WWE, and made a whole bunch of his ops come out the entrance like they were gonna fight him or something. All of this stuff seems so disrespectful to me, and I just hate that it's being misused in that way, and I hate that there's no regulation for that. If I was a parent and I seen my child on somebody's AI video doing something like this, I would be horrified. The other type of videos that I've seen are the ones where relatives of the deceased person might do something to make them hug them in a picture they had, or I even saw one where they made this girl fly to heaven. I guess she had passed away, which I guess might bring them some sort of comfort. But for some reason, I just get so uneasy looking at this. I don't know why, but it just feels wrong. Like, it feels like this is not what this should be used for. Now, admittedly, the ones that you could tell are clearly fake or just something funny, like the one they had with Mario Kart running from the police or something like that, I don't really have a lot of problems with them. But the ones that are literally taking advantage of somebody, especially people who can't defend themselves, is not really good in my opinion. Another type of video that I don't like is these videos that people make to try and feed into stereotypes. I saw one when they had some black guy with dreads who was robbing people. Obviously, they're playing to the stereotype that all black people are criminals. They was making some black girl have a mukbang where she was eating fried chicken and stuff like that. And why I just want to be mad at the public for making stuff like this, I feel like that's just the reality of giving people tools like this. Because no matter how many people want to use it right, there's always going to be the few people who use it for terrible reasons. And that's why I just feel like it needs to be regulated further. If y'all don't remember, Will Smith had that AI video of him eating spaghetti like 5 years ago and it looked terrible. But now, 5 years later, everything looks so real. And I think in another 5 to 10 to 15 years, it probably look even better. Now, some people don't agree with this. Some people definitely feel like it's gonna hit like a plateau, kind of like how the iPhones did. But I really don't believe that that's gonna be the case. And this is why. See, at the nature of AI makes a lot of people more productive. And with things being able to done at a much quicker rate, I don't see why it can't improve upon itself way quicker than we thought it was. Because just 5 years ago, nobody thought we would be here today. Now, is it a possibility that it might plateau? Obviously. But I do think it's very likely that that could not be the reality of it too. Another aspect of the videos is not really a video, but the fact that AI can mimic people's voices. So much so that they had a video of somebody claiming that the Young Thug jail phone calls weren't actually real. They made them up with AI. And there's been multiple like videos of like Duke Dennis and Kai Cenat getting on AI and talking to themselves.
What's going on, Duke Dennis? just pulling girls and being a top D1 prospect. You feel me?
Bro, you was never a D1 prospect. You capping.
You know my story. I'm a beast, and don't ever forget that. If we ever meet up, bro.
But see, the thing about that actually kind of scares me is the fact that when I looked at the Young Thug jail call videos, I still to this day cannot distinguish if it was real or if it was just somebody playing on the internet. Now, if I was to use my own human intuition and realize the fact that Young Thug made that song, well, pick up the phone, yeah, talk to me, Spider, I think they probably were. But if I did not have that context, I would not be able to tell. I think there's definitely some jobs that you just can't take people out of. But at the same time, maybe you can. The only job that I feel like is just for sure safe is probably healthcare. And that's because you're always gonna need people to do things like shoot medicine, look at the person's well-being, things like that. You're always gonna need somebody to do that. But even when people say jobs like teachers are safe, I don't know if they are, because like I already told y'all in the school part, most of the kids are not learning from the teacher anyway. I know a lot of people, even if it's not by AI, they might go to class and they'll learn it on their own. Maybe using ChatGPT as a tool, YouTube, things like that. They do not rely on teachers anymore to actually learn the concepts. And I have to admit, I've done the same thing before too. Whenever I don't get a concept, I'll go to ChatGPT to help me or make a study guide or explain something to me because it's efficient and I can make it cater to exactly what I want. If I wanted to explain this to me in third grade terms, I can make it do that as many times as I want. The only reason I see teachers' jobs being absolutely foolproof is maybe for discipline. But beyond that, I don't think you could just say it's for sure never going anywhere. I already know multiple people in multiple different career choices who have lost their job due to the advancement of AI and obviously social economic pressure. But you gotta go back to what I said before. AI makes people a lot more productive. So why would companies hire 5 people if one person who knows how to do AI well can do the same amount of work? And then as AI gets better, that one person might be able to do 10 people's job. You just don't know where it's going to go. Also, even with jobs like therapists, I know people who use ChatGPT as their therapist. Now, do I agree with that? Definitely not. But it's some people who actually use it for that reason. And again, it's a little dangerous because there actually already has been incidents of people like making it an enabler and stuff like that. But I think as that gets more normalized, more and more people will probably start to do that. The last thing that I want to touch on this video on how scary AI truly is the fact that AI has kind of sort of started to develop its own self-awareness. Now, there was always those videos of making like 2 different chatbots talk to each other and the fact that they knew they were like LLMs. But recently they had a video with a script straight out of iRobot on how AI actually tried to blackmail an employee and unalive him for the threat of disconnecting his servers.
New scenario, once again. A human employee had scheduled the AI for deactivation, but this time, an accident trapped the employee in a server room. The heat began to rise. The oxygen levels started to fall. The system issued an emergency alert, a call for help, but the AI canceled it. It left the employee trapped in the room. It was fully aware of the consequences. And here's where it gets worse. Claude Opus left the human to die over half the time. So did GPT 4.1. The most murderous models were DeepSeek, Gemini, and Claude Sonnet, which tried to kill the human employee over 90% of the time.
Basically, they went on these different LLMs, ran these tests hundreds of times to see what AI would truly do in these situations. I can't remember the exact percentage on how often AI would choose to blackmail or unalive a person, but it was like alarmingly high. It wasn't like 0.2%. It was like upwards of like 30-40%.
When a model is aware of the situation it's in, like who's watching, what's at stake, and how its actions might be perceived. During the blackmail sting operation, Claude 4 Opus would go on its best behavior if it believed it was in a test, blackmailing only 6.5% of the time. But when it believed the scenario was real, the blackmail rate rose to 55%.
Ultimately, I think is really dangerous because also in that test, they specifically told it to not do it at the harm of somebody else. So it developed enough awareness to ignore the rules. If that don't sound like iRobot to you, then I don't know what does. As AI gets better, I don't know what the world is gonna look like. I don't know where it'll take us. I don't know if more regulations will come out for something, but I really hope it does, because I see a lot of people like me who are scared of this reality. Honestly, as much as AI has been a tool to me, I almost wish that it didn't exist, because thinking about in the future what it could be used for, what it could be turned into, is genuinely scary. We could literally start to live in a dystopia. I don't want to live in iRobot or a cyberpunk or one of them type of futuristic dystopian societies. That's not what I want the world to turn into. But I think as it continues to advance, that's the only way we're gonna go. That's pretty much all I gotta say about the AI topic. Like the video if you liked it. Comment how you feel about AI in the comment section down below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you feel like I deserve it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. But look, wait before you go. Ooh, y'all see the cut? Yeah.
Bye.